Hi, Lynn Christian from Soul Salt, and I'm going to interview Sunni Brown. I first found out about Sunni Brown in her book Game Storming, and then later on and quickly became a fan of her Doodle Revolution. Sunni is a visual thinker, but more than that, she's a deep liver. She goes into life and lives it profoundly, deeply, authentically. We're about to talk to her because her most recent book and her most recent ventures take her to the section of life where spirituality intersects the day to day. And right now she's trying to decide with this curriculum and this mode of thinking that she's going to express in her book how that will come about. If it, at the end of the day, will wind up being workshops or masterminds or one-to-one coaching. She's found right now that it's very successful for her to share her modules in coaching. Listen in and learn more about where the spiritual essence of every one of us, who we are, and perhaps how come we came here, how that can intersect your work as a coach or as someone who works one-to-one with people. Listen in and enjoy this time with Sunni Brown. How would you put your arms around it and put words or descriptors to it to sort of share what it is you're up to right now?
Well, God, that's a really good question because for so far everything that all of the evolutionary leaps that I make seem to be linked to a book,
Mm-hmm.
and so the third book right now is it's sort of an encapsulation of some of what I've learned. I mean, I've been studying the three really deep interdisciplinary spiritual practices for 12 years now. So I've been studying Zen. I've been studying internal family systems, which is a really powerful, what I call an inner science. And I've been studying Hakomi, which is a mind-body practice, but, and of course, visual thinking is like part of it. So the book is at the publishers right now. So I finally gave it to Penguin, and they are like eyeballing it. So it's a very crazy place to occupy, and because it's just a waiting game. Like you have no idea what direction that will go, and much of it's crazy, Lynn, because I don't think the book is the entire universe of the business at all. Like whatever happens with that, I'm going to pursue the path of this process regardless and just learn from that experience. So it's not like I need a successful book to do it, but
Right.
So far that seems to be how I roll, so
Yeah, it is.
It'll be so it'll be really interesting to see what happens with this book, because it's definitely related, but regardless of that, the curriculum itself, it's like I think people are just really hungry for depth and practice and community and authenticity. And I think that even me, who doesn't really play in popular culture, and I just got on Facebook like 6 months ago, you can palpably feel how much people need each other in a more meaningful way. And, that's what I've been diving into for the last over a decade. And so it's like, I would say I'm a fledgling teacher in this area because I work with some really powerful, profound spiritual teachers. So I'm very humbled by them and what I see from them. So but nevertheless, it's like, even if I'm not ripe as a teacher of well-being and like what they call a psychonaut. Have you heard of the term psychonaut?
No, tell us more about that.
It's like if you were an astronaut, but you go into the psyche,
Oh, yeah.
And that's what like a lot of Tibetan masters are referred to themselves as, and a lot of Zen teachers, because we kind of explore the inner recesses of consciousness. And so, I've been spelunking into that world for a very long time, and I've brought back what I think is a form of gold, and I want to teach it and share it and make sense of it and create community around it and so forth. And I don't, honestly, Lynn, this is not something you put in the universe, but it has nothing to do with money or status or power or, it's literally like, we don't have eternity on this earth, and it doesn't make any sense to be anything other than as kind as we can and as skillful as we can to just stop injuring the planet and each other and all those things. So there's nothing more I would rather do, even if I'm not that good at it. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you are a cut above when it comes to your practice, and yet you're very humble, Sunny. You always have been, even about your visual thinking. I think you underestimate the gravity of your soul and how it has
Oh,
influenced many of us out here. And yet here you are diving in again, spelunking, as you said, as a psychonaut,
yeah,
bringing back some
yeah.
gold. And and what my audience is probably going to be really interested in is,
Hmm.
is that gold? What is this new
Right.
gift you're giving to us?
Right. So that's a good question. So one way to describe it, and because like depending on how my relationship with students and evolves over, because I'm hoping this will last the duration of my life. I'm hoping this is my last chapter of what I do for my work. Um, but so the first students, I would say what I would probably help them learn how to do is to dissolve personal obstacles. So so at the sort of base level, it would be like, I always want to speak up in a meeting and I don't. It could be something really actually simple like that. So then the inquiry is, why not? What's in the way? What part of you is holding you back? What's the concern around that? And actually freeing a sort of belief or an unresolved idea, a limiting belief, so that you can get out of your own way. And and even just at that layer of spiritual practice or of emotional intelligence, that's huge. If you can identify 5 aspects of you that are consistently tripping you up and actually dissolve them, that like in one lifetime, that actually would be sufficient. It would make a huge difference.
Oh, it would be,
Um,
yeah, it would be very big. It's kind of like I was reading on a bottle this morning as I was doing laundry, that if every family would use a 64-ounce non-bleach sort of uh, or chlorine-free bleach in their laundry, it would eliminate, and I think it was like 1 million uh, bits of chlorine that go into our ecosystem. And as I'm listening to
uh-huh.
you, I'm thinking if one person could dissolve even one of these personal
Yeah,
obstacles, it would
that's
lighten
right.
and brighten the planet. And
That's right.
Sunny, you've been a student of this. I remember being back with you in Austin, which you've returned to. Congratulations. And
Uh-huh.
sitting on your porch and
I seem to
talking.
always come back to Austin when I want to start a new business.
Yeah, isn't it crazy and yet so appropriate? And I remember us talking
Uh-huh.
on a deep level about ritual, where soul intersects what you're doing, so that there's depth to
Yeah.
the behavior. So when you're working with people, what's the sort of technology that you've developed? What are you offering up this time that takes it
Uh-huh.
deeper?
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So, because, I'm a curriculum designer, right? So I always am coming up with systems. So I find like really deep so I find really deep and wide and rich practices. And what I also apparently do, because now that I've done it multiple times, I'm like, oh, this is part of my gift, is I take the richest, most powerful, most robust aspects of these methodologies. I simplify them, and then I design a new curriculum based on them using visual thinking. So this method that I designed is called deep self-design, and it's an integration of some really deep practices that probably people wouldn't run into. So like most Americans are not going to go practice Zen. It's not. This is mostly a Christian nation, um, or um, or a Western religion nation, and so they're not going to run into Buddhism. Yet it's this huge. Oh, I can't even speak of how immense the river of Zen is, but it can be daunting. So I'm going to take the best of it, the simplest of it, the stuff that I know gets in the way of Westerners, and use that, but not in an esoteric, confusing way. So I'm going to take Zen and use some of that knowledge and wisdom, and then also the other method that's kind of like the core of DSD, what I call DSD, which is deep self-design, is called internal family systems, and it's a really radical. I mean, I cannot believe it's not just internationally known. It's so powerful. Kind of like how you found the heart, gut,
Yes,
brain, like the 3
yes.
brain. But it's like that. It's like it's big stuff. Um, but it's usually amongst psychotherapists, and so most people are not going to intersect, even if they choose to go to a therapist, they're not going to necessarily find a therapist who does this work. And at the end of the day, IFS is actually a spiritual practice. And so I am, again, taking that out of the traditional office as a therapist, where people can resist that because they think, oh, something's wrong with me, or, oh, I don't, these people are quacks, or whatever, all the resistance I have. And just, I'm going to normalize inner science, like normalize internal exploration for the benefit of improving the quality of your life.
Wow.
And of course, I'm going to have it as, yeah, it's like, and just make it cool. It's totally freaking cool. And it's like, who doesn't want to ask for a promotion when they want to, but they can't? Like, who doesn't want to do that? So, you know, I want it to be, or like last night, I was listening to my friend. She kept saying to herself, "Oh, I never finish anything." She's an amazing artist, and I could hear how down she was on herself about, quote, never finishing anything. And so, who doesn't want to explore that belief to see, A, if it's false, and B, if it is true, let's get you into the space of finishing stuff. Like, you can do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, so that's the intention of the curriculum, is to make that much more accessible and easy and workable, and, you know, tucked inside of some games.
Wow. You know, one of these days, we're going to have to sit on a porch again, and we'll talk about.
Oh, you know.
Yeah, where my studies in neuroscience intersect your studies of these deep, non-traditional Eastern philosophies match up with a heart and soul. Because what I sense you're doing, Sunni, is democratizing ancient wisdom in such a way that you set it free for many people to access it. Much like, you know, one of the I adore you and have such an affinity for you and your work, besides of knowing who you are and loving your character, is the fact that way back when we started chatting, your work, both Game Storming and the Doodle Revolution, set me free on a piece of my identity I had never actually named. You gave me the name visual thinker. You legitimized that, and you not only did that, but you showed me how to grow it. And so I can imagine you're going to do this thing just when we, members of this planet who are seeking to be more kind and skillful and efficient, greater self-efficacy, need guidance.
Right, and I did too. And that's the thing, is I'm not speaking from some perch of I figured it all out. It's like, I'm a work in progress, and I, you know, am an example of, I mean, you have known me, and so it's like I went through some pretty hellish circumstances, just like you have also experienced. So it's applied, it's personally applied and tested, and it's like there's no you that's without flaw or without cracks in the system, but it's really about identifying where you want to bloom and letting yourself do that. And so and that's the thing, Lynn. It's like, even if I could have an impact on 10 people, that's a big deal, because they take themselves everywhere they go, and they intersect with other people everywhere they go. So it's like, it's not, I don't have like the kinds of ambitions that I had in the past. Like, I'm not a workaholic, you know, anymore. It's funny, it's interesting, like, once you heal certain deep pieces of yourself, then you find that you're not like driving so hard, or you're not needing to prove anything, or and you're not hard on you. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes.
I'm not hard on myself.
Wow.
You know, so I'm very gently designing this business, because I don't need to make it hard. It's just, I want to literally go with the flow and enjoy it. And even with the book being at the publisher, it normally in history, and me just sitting in the darkness, I would be anxiety ridden, and I would be completely freaked out, and my mind would be going 100 miles an hour, because it is a big deal. It's a big deal. And I mean, I've thought about it like twice. I'm like, oh, that's happening. I forgot.
So
it's not linked to my identity.
In the neuroscience, then, what's happened is, in my mind and in my experience, from being in the brainstem and the limbic brain, where you're secreting cortisol and adrenaline and fear, and racing around with thoughts of old patterns, and you're in the prefrontal cortex where, you know, the doodles take us anyway, but you're also being able to drop into the heart and gut. And that's where trust is built, connection. And I hear you embodying that right now.
Right. That's so interesting. That makes sense. And I definitely would love to know what the intersection is of neuroscience and these sort of healing practices. And I am fascinated with, like, when you dissolve. So in internal family systems, they sort of refer to the human psyche as modular. And some of the modules that we carry are like kind of distressed. They're under distress. And these are, you know, these are neurological networks,
right?
That have like, they have like a tonality to them. So
right.
if you have, you know what I mean? So if you have like a experience in the past of being sort of made fun of when you presented, then that tone is going to be there activated when you're standing up in a meeting and presenting. But when you go through the DSD process, you actually take the quality of that tone and transform it, and often you don't even have it anymore. So that experience has been resolved. And so I would love to know more about the neuroscience, and I don't know how much of that I'm going to put in the book because,
well, I don't know.
There's questions around, does the reader want that and stuff like that.
I don't know that you need it. It's just, to me,
Yeah.
I'm listening to you going.
I love it too, though.
Oh yeah, well, you're a psychonaut, so you do, and it's like, so your work, it narrows down to this very elegant message. It sounds like, of dissolving personal obstacles, and a lot of us know what those are. It's fear of public speaking, or not saying no when you need to say yes, or
that's right.
being in burnout because you give too much, or
that's right, exactly,
broken, whatever it is. Your work's going to help us take these aspects of maybe what we've inherited that aren't even our true self. And
much of them are legacy burdens. That's correct.
Yes, legacy burdens. I love how another thing you do so well, Sunny, is you match the words that lift the concepts into an understanding and a comprehension, which is something you've always done. It's a very eloquent dialogue you have with the reader whenever you're writing. It seems like you just.
Oh, that's so nice.
Well,
that's so nice. Thank you for noticing.
Yes, yes. What have you not told me about this new work that you would like coaches like myself and seekers of truth like myself to hear?
What have I not told you? Well, I haven't, I don't know if this is the sort of level that the question is at, but I'm still very much prototyping how to offer this wisdom and knowledge. And because there's so many ways, you know, right. It's like you can do masterminds, you can do remote coaching, you can do big groups, I could just do public talks, I could do workshops and training. So I'm still waiting for my particular capacity for form to kind of reveal itself. And in the meantime, I'm just testing things. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to test individual sessions, and those always go well. But it's just one person. So do I want to scale it? And really, it's like, I'm in conversation with the field. So what I want is not necessarily what the field is interested in. So I'm like, okay, let me be receptive while simultaneously doing what I do, which is prototype and experiment and test. But that's still very unclear, you know, what form it takes.
So it's almost like you're waiting to channel that in and to be sure about it.
Yeah, because I watch, you know, I look at other people who are sort of in this industry, and you have everything from like really energetic kind of directive teachers to totally hands-off, quiet, understated, you know, like meditation masters. And you have like Tony Robbins types, which is like the UN, like the size of these things. And then you have Byron Katie types, she's sort of intimidating, but really sharp and clear. And so, yeah, I don't know what people see in me in this role. And I don't know what's the best and highest use of my particular skill sets. I know there's something around facilitating, like holding space for groups and encouraging vulnerability and people being inspired to do stuff that they wouldn't normally do. So I know those are aspects of my way that people perceive me. But I don't know anything really outside of that in terms of like what is the best way to step into this. And I trust that it will, you know, I think it's a slow process, you know, I think it will reveal itself at some point, but I'm not there yet for sure.
Well, one of the things I admire about you, even as I'm listening to you now, is your propensity, as you said, to prototype and test. To me, it's like you're willing to be in the discovery mode longer and longer and longer, so that the knowledge or the discovery can then appear and be crystal clear.
Yes, that's right. And that's what it occurred to me this morning. Because, you know, in the past, I would be like, oh my God, I need to generate revenue while I'm, you know, sort of doing this side development piece. And it's not untrue that I don't need to do that, but there's a sort of relaxing into this longer developmental curve, because this is not, it's richer and more robust than design thinking and visual thinking, which is in itself a really deep field, but this field is, you know, is ancient and timeless and huge. So it occurred to me today, I'm like, it might be 2 years before I have an offering. You know, it might, I mean, I have no idea how long it will be, and that's totally fine. Just to have the opportunity is enough. Like, that is huge, you know?
It is. It's way huge. It's really good.
Yeah.
This is so exciting. I cannot wait to see the book. And I don't know that you know, but I'll have my book coming out in 2020. And
what is your book?
So my book is all of the Soul Salt modules.
Oh, yes.
Things I coach. Yeah, it's coming forward, and we're not quite sure what the title's going to be, but the basis is how to be your own.
Are you going to publish it yourself?
We're going to publish. Yeah, we're going to self-publish, because we want to have control over how it looks. And of course, I don't have the star power behind my name that you have. So Penguin someday may look at me. I don't know. Other people may want it, but we'll self-publish. But we're in the process of now congealing all of the chapters together. Oh
my goodness. And so it's great you don't have a title, because it will name itself at some point after it's sort of been assembled.
Yes, that's what I believe. And I don't know if you remember, I think I gave you a copy of my little narrative poetry book, Fearless Kisses. We didn't know what the name would be until it was ready to publish.
Oh, I love that book. It was so moving. I was like, I would turn pages and then I'd cry, and then I'd like think about your journey, and then I would be like, think about all the people's journeys, you know, that have been through things of that nature. And I was like, world, you know, the human journey, man, it's not an easy ride, you know.
It's not for the weak of heart, is it?
Yeah, well, I don't know, like if you cocoon, I always wonder, because that's sort of the dare, like in the opening chapter of this next book, the dare is like to come out of the cocoon. But sometimes I do envy people that don't. I'm like, God, it's so cozy in your bubble of oblivion, you know. But that just doesn't give it, that opportunity is not available for all of us. Like, some of us really just have to step out, and that's you and me, you know.
Yep. We can't.
So we didn't get the comfortable roller coaster ride, you know.
We did not. We are wired to take action. We are wired to face the demon and get to know it.
Yes, that's right. That's so right. Exactly. I know, and it's so great to talk to you at this particular time, because I had this memory of like many times past when you would coach me, and you always seem to coach me at like critical intervals. And I was like, this is like another interval that you know, when Shannon said, oh, Lynn wants to talk, I was like, that would be wonderful. And then today I was like, of course she and I are reconnecting at this particular juncture, because it's always like, that's part of your role, it seems like, in my life, is to give me some sense of confidence that it's going to be okay, and that it'll be useful, and that I have what it takes, you know. But also, like, you see me you actually see me, which is always really soothing for me, because it's hard to explain me to most people, and you're always like, oh, I get it. Like, that's one of your superpowers, is you really do see people.
Yeah, thank you. I believe I do. Yeah, and you know, Sunny, this this making simple, making accessible, I know it's come at a cost, but not
Yeah.
necessarily one that you didn't want to pay. Like your deep self design has been part of it, and you've stayed aware and awake so that you could pass it on. If
Yeah.
if you have one message for mankind at this time, because you are one of those bright spots, you're one of those people, when somebody physically looks in your eyes, they see the depth, even the brown of your eyes is so deep and rich.
Hmm.
You're real inside. This message, I wonder, what's a single message you could give to mankind at this point that would help us all?
That's a good question. I want to feel into it. It would be something around, first do no harm. Like even if we're in a really distressed and traumatized state, and I don't expect a higher level of functioning in that state, but I would actually request that we do no harm. And I don't mean like, I know you can't really walk the planet and be a human being without making trash or without accidentally running into someone, but just sort of curb the intentional or curb the oblivious harmfulness, because we need each other, and we're going to need each other even more so in the future.
That is fantastic. That's a ray of light that we can all hang on to.
Yeah. And ideally, you would actually get to like deep-hearted love for others, and that is a developmental process and it takes time. So in the meantime, I'm just tread lightly.
Mm. Wow, what a powerful image. I mean, I'm seeing people tread lightly with mindfulness, and even seeing light dust come off their feet as they walk across the planet if they do this.
Nice. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. Because I did a walking intensive this weekend and the whole day was focused on walking. And the way he described, just like becoming very keenly aware of what it takes to walk, and how much of a gift that is. And he said, the way he said it, he said, when you walk, plant your feet on the earth as you would plant your hand on someone you love.
Wow.
And I just got goosebumps. I know. So beautiful. Wow. And so that's what made me think of when you showed me that image. I'm like, yes, because that's what I mean. It's just like, be gentle. Even when you're suffering, be gentle with yourself and others.
Anything you want to say I haven't even inquired about?
I'm just happy to reunite, because you mean so much to me, and I'm, I'm walking a sort of a rope, and I don't totally know what's happening. I need like an ensemble of allies, and like, and you're one of those people who everybody wants on their team, so even a little bit of occasional dips would be huge.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Boy, I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. And the first message I would love to anchor in is, let us all do no harm. Let us tread lightly wherever we are. Let us be aware of those things in our life that we might be doing that would benefit if we throw the bullshit flag on them and say, I can't be entitled just because I had something depressing happen to me, or just because I've been treated unfairly does not give me permission now to behave in such a way that transmits darkness and harm, chaos, and fear. Yes, take a deep breath and hopefully watch for Sunni's new book to come out. Also, you may want to look up where she has appeared in Fast Company. Google her. You can follow her on Instagram. You can find her at Sunni Brown Inc. And of course, I would suggest, if you want to get to know Sunni even better, this is a great place to start. Thanks for joining us.